Hey, this is Art from My New Microphone, and in today's quick video, I want to discuss the idea of starting big and ending small in your mixes in terms of the hierarchy of elements, the long-term dynamics, and the overall processing of the mix. Mixing is about achieving a great balance throughout the entirety of a song, and it makes perfect natural sense that focusing on the big parts of the song first and balancing those will give us the majority of the results to be had in a mix. While focusing on the finer details can really bring a mix to a professional level, it's these big balancing issues that we must address first to get the majority of the results in the mix before moving on to these finer details. And this leads to the idea that in a mix, we should always start big and end small. The first way to start big and end small in a mix is to consider the hierarchy of elements in the song. Think about which elements are the most important in the song and proceed to jot down a list of all the tracks in the mix session in order of importance, starting with the most important and working your way down to the least important. And when it comes time to processing with EQ or compression, we will have a well thought out list to show us which tracks should take precedence over others. The second way we can start big and end small in the mix is by starting at the climax of the song or the point of highest energy. This section of the song often has the most tracks playing at once, and so mixing it will be likely the most difficult to do. And while our ears are still fresh, we can put in a lot of work to mix that climax of the song to the best of our capabilities and make it as big as possible. From there, we can work backwards and make every other section of the song slightly smaller than the climax. It can be greatly beneficial to actually draw out the long-term dynamics of a song with an actual pen and sheet of paper. Start from the very beginning, go to the very end, and for each section of the song, draw out the relative levels of energy between the different sections. Knowing the long-term dynamics and being able to reference a sort of map that we've drawn out will give us a greater idea of which parts of the mix require more energy or less energy. Again, starting big and ending small. By starting at the climax of the song, we can really max out our mixing efforts to make that part as big as possible and then draw things back throughout the other sections. I mentioned the hierarchy of elements and the long-term dynamics in a video I did about note-taking throughout the mix. There's a whole bunch of other great information in that video worth checking out, so I will have a card up top and I will leave a link to that video in the description box down below. The third way we can start big and end small in the mix is with our actual processing and through what is called top-down mixing. With top-down mixing, once we get our initial mix done with faders and pan pots, we will actually start processing on the mix bus before moving on to the instrument buses or subgroups, and then finally working our way down to the individual tracks. That way we are indirectly processing multiple tracks at once, either through the mix bus or the subgroups or instrument buses. And by doing so, we can get quick wins on entire groups of instruments rather than going through and processing each individual instrument separately. I also have a more in-depth video on top-down mixing versus bottom-up mixing. I'll leave a link to that down in the description box down below and a card up here as well. So by starting big and ending small, we can quickly get the majority of the mix done and then have plenty of time and energy to focus on the finer details afterward. So I would encourage you of implementing the strategies discussed in this video. Once again, it is writing down the hierarchy of elements and long-term dynamics and using those as reference points throughout the mix, and to also implement top-down mixing from the very beginning of the mix. Hit that like button if you found this video informative, and be sure to check out the description box down below where I have a whole bunch of other resources at My New Microphone. I will also leave another few YouTube videos up here that have more to do with mixing, so click one of these and I will see you in the next video.